I get hurt playing for you. I do what you ask me. You deny me the surgery I want to do. So then we have a feud because I can't play for you unless I get surgery, but I'm not going to do the surgery that you want me to do because I don't believe it. So then you just take the C away because I wanted to do a surgery that I thought was best for me. That's your reasoning.
What's going on, guys? This is Chris Weidman. I appreciate you guys checking out my channel and the latest episode of my podcast, Won't Back Down. I have a great show planned for today, but before we begin, I want to tell you about my show's presenting sponsor, BioXcellerator. BioXcellerator is the world leader in stem cell therapy and regenerative medical research. Through the use of their powerful golden stem cells, they help patients heal from joint and orthopedic injuries, autoimmune disorders, spine and disc damage, and neurological trauma. I went down to Medellin, Colombia, and I got my stem cells, and honestly, I feel great. My leg is improving every single day, and it takes about 6 months to get full effect from the stem cells, and I'm really excited to see what happens in the future. Thanks again to BioXcellerator for helping sponsor this show and create my show, Won't Back Down, which is also available on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
How you been feeling?
I feel great, man. My neck, like as far as neck, no issues at all.
Your leg.
Oh, yeah, that's actually, it's good. I feel like I was ready to make a comeback, like into 100% all out training. I would have been good before Christmas, but I was doing one arm. I know this sounds like crazy. And so I guess it's cool that it happened while I was doing this, crazy exercise. I was doing one arm push-ups on a medicine ball. It was like low reps. And the way my leg, because, you have to you like all the balance and everything is, on your legs and just one hand. And I put too much weight on my foot. It like twisted weird. And it's called like the peroneal tendon rolled over the plate, like subluxed over and came back, and it's just been irritated. It's just inflamed. So nothing like surgical or anything like that, just a pain in the ass. Just a little inflammation, and I just got to be careful, so I don't like tear it. So now I've been babying it a little bit.
Yeah.
And doing more physical therapy. But
it's got to be tough, right? Because you get over I was going to ask you this anyways, right? You got to get over it. Sort of like there's like a mental hump of you being confident in it again, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I was going to ask you when that happened with your neck, right? So obviously you get ADR surgery. Like, at what point was it like sometime when you were like sparring, training, when you were like, all right, like there's that first hit where you're like, okay, like, am I going to be okay? And you're a little hesitant, and then you take your first hit, or maybe it's like maybe it's a lock or something, or you're grappling and you're like, okay, I'm not worried about it anymore.
Yeah. For me, I think it was the punching to the head and stuff like that. It wasn't as scary. I don't think I had to strengthen up the front of my neck first, right? Like, because you're getting these hits to the head and you want to make sure that like you strengthen that up good enough. But for me, it was less of worrying about that. It was more like the chokes and stuff like that, because the reason why I ended up getting that surgery was because I had taken someone down in sparring. And actually, it's funny. It's the guy, Chris Camozzi, who's a UFC fighter, who's friends with the doctor that you're friends with in Denver. He lives in Denver. So he was out in New York training with me.
Mac.
What's his name again? I always forget his name.
Chad Prusmack.
Yeah, he's the man. Everyone loves him. He's like a super genius. And he did your surgery, right?
Did my surgery, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I had him in, I had this guy in side control. He held on to the choke a little bit. And it was no choke. It wasn't anything crazy. I get out of it. I keep going. And then the next night, like I woke up in the middle of the night. Well, that night, I woke up in the middle of the night, like in crazy pain, and it wasn't going away. Like no matter where I pulled my neck or like pushed it, it wasn't stopping. And then I had a fight coming up. I had a title fight coming up actually at the time, and I got two injections to try to see if I didn't have to get surgery.
So did you end up fighting? No, there's no way, right?
So I ended up having to back out of that fight. And then get the surgery. But it was probably like 3-4 weeks. I was like in such bad pain. And I was on painkillers and just anti-inflammatories on everything I could possibly do to just try to get through the pain. And at the same time, dealing with that, which like I'm trying to find out the best surgery for me to get done. And I'm going to all these doctors and they're like, you need the fusion, you need the fusion. And but a lot of the athletes I spoke to, which I told you about, like they were like, bro, don't get the fusion. Like I spoke to Kurt Angle, I spoke to Coleman. Oh my God, I'm forgetting his first name. He was an animal MMA fighter back in the day. Not Ron Coleman. Crap. Wish I could edit, but he knows who I'm talking about. And they were just like, yo, if you don't get if you can, try not to get that fusion. And I eventually found like 2 doctors that were willing and saying that, no, you don't need a fusion. You should get artificial disc replacement. And then you started like learning about like why these doctors try to force you into getting the fusion, and the pros and the cons of it.
You can kind of understand it after the process, right? It's sort of why they said that. Yeah, that's sort of what I got to the point after the process where I was just like, yeah, I get why doctors would be like, yeah, get a fusion, right? It's like the safer bet, but as an athlete, it's obviously not the ideal thing if you want to like get back to as close to you were before, but it's neither here nor there, right? I mean, it's done with now, right? Like I've already moved on.
And thank God, like now the rest of what happens is, for everybody out there that doesn't know this, I know you know this, but when you have a fusion, it gets rid of that whole joint, and basically now you have that joint locked up and fused with metal. And now you're never going to have an issue with that joint, but now the rest of your body, the rest of your spine is now compensated because your spine isn't going to be able to move the way it's supposed to move. And then so you end up having like issues with the discs, below and above. And it might not be right away, but over time you're going to have freaking issues. And when you have neck pain or back pain and you experience that, you have to take that into account. Like, I don't want to live the rest of my life as a cripple. As us as athletes, it's like, we want to just get back out there, but we also, if you have time to think, like, no, I don't want to be, all in pain for the rest of my life.
No, yeah. I mean, I think the more research you do, you just find it's honestly, it's just a healthier option, like I couldn't be happier. Like I was on the ice, like very, very soon after getting surgery. And like, I was on the ice a week after. I mean, I was just kind of gliding around and feeling it, but like I had my skates on 1 week after surgery, like skating, just feeling the ice.
That's crazy.
I mean, honestly, 8 weeks ago, it's like eight weeks basically post-op now. I mean, I feel phenomenal.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel what any issues that you feel now that like you're still a little nervous about?
No, nothing. I mean, right now, honestly, it's just like the 2 things I guess that I have left to do is just to get back to Vegas practicing with the team, right? So obviously I had the shortened season last year and I've missed the first half of the year this year. So timing wise, my timing's probably off. I'm not at game speed, and I'm sure it's going to take me, a few games to get back to where I want to be, right? But I mean, physically, no, I feel fine, right? But I also still have to take some contact and see how I respond to that. But I know I'll be fine. I mean, it's sort of just like we talked about, right? It's getting over that mental hump of like, hey, all right, I took a couple hits and it's fine. Like I can just kind of move on, but that's just gonna come from the experience of like getting hit a couple times or, going into like, it's just, then mentally you're like, oh, okay. Like I'm okay. You know what I mean? Nothing happened, and you just kind of move on from there.
Yeah. You're going to be fine, bro. You're going to be better than ever. Can you tell everybody kind of like the story of what happened to your neck and like how, like what you had to go through?
Yeah. So, this is back in 2018-19 season. So a few years ago, I started having some neck problems. Started with like one game. I mean, I didn't really know if it was like concussion or neck, but my neck was bothering me, and I started getting some like vestibular issues. My eyes were just feeling heavy. My nervous system was kind of compromised, so my neck was bothering me, and so I kind of like managed it throughout the rest of the season. Never really felt good or optimal. And then, I spent a lot of time in the summer doing That was the first time I got imaged as well, and it didn't show a disc herniation, right? It showed like a slight bulge, maybe some like just some inflammation, whatever. And
Yeah.
I did a whole summer in 2019 of like very like intense, like just trying to rehab it, get it back, whatever. And it bothered me a lot throughout the summer. But as the season started at the beginning of 2019 in the fall, I actually started to feel good. Like it stopped bothering me. But it was something that I had to maintain, right? I had to continue to do Aldoa every night. I had to get a lot of treatment. I had to make sure that it was, and there were still instances during that season that it bothered me. And then yeah, I mean, I guess fast forward, then 2020 starts. We ended up getting hit with COVID in March. And then it was sort of just a really weird off season last year. Our year didn't start in October. It was sort of out of sync. And then, we go into the season. I had a few instances where in the off season last year that I had tweaked things in the gym training. And, I would just kind of feel it. And it would be like, I just, at that point I knew something was wrong. And then during the season, I never really felt great either. And,
Was it like, what were you doing in the gym? Like overhead presses and stuff like that? Or
one of the times I was doing a pull up, I was doing a weighted chin, and it was sort of a last rep. And I was trying to get here, like over the bar. Did that. I extended my neck kind of like that. And I just felt it go right down my spine. And I couldn't like turn my head for like 3 or 4 days. Right. And so I had that same instance where like, it's almost like a shooting pain down your spine, right between your shoulder blades. I had that same instance happen probably 3 or 4 times in the off season, right? And then you kind of let that, settle, and then you're okay. But it happens that many times, and something's a little bit off. And so then the season starts. My neck was bothering me. Unfortunately, with the way COVID was happening, the guy that I had been getting treatment from, he was just over the border in Canada, so he would come down. But with the border being closed last year during the season, he wasn't able to. So I really didn't have that same amount of like treatment and care that I had the year before. And it was just sort of going a little bit downhill. And I think when I took a hit.
What were they, sorry to interrupt you, but what stuff was the physical therapist doing that you actually felt like did help, if there was anything?
Well, for me, I mean, a lot of it was just kind of pumping my neck, and a lot of just like releasing the facets. A lot of it was just releasing, the rest of my spine, making sure, because whenever my T-spine locked up, I always felt like that's when, my cervical spine started bothering me, so thoracically, when I move well, in the middle of my back, I feel like everything else is fine. So thoracic locks up, I find then my cervical, spine starts bothering me a little. So
they loosen up your T-spine and just make sure that's good. And then you felt,
yeah, I mean, I was getting normal treatment from somebody who's, who I thought was, a very good therapist, very good chiropractor. And I thought it really helped. And it was just sort of staying on top of it. And then with COVID during the season, it was sort of like, maybe we were chasing it a little bit. And, I had some other injuries that I was dealing with as well. I broke a rib right before training camp, and I had an ab injury from the year before that fully hadn't healed. So I was dealing with a few other things. And then, so I was compromised in a lot of places, and I'm sure that all kind of contributed to the neck. And then I took it wasn't a violent hit at all, but a bit of an awkward hit in Long Island against the Islanders.
Those Islanders hit hard, bro.
Physical team.
Nassau Coliseum.
I know. Honestly, that place is that when the fans are there, like I know that but it used to be so fun to play there. I mean, it sucked because there was so much energy, and then they
loved it.
And it'd be tough to.
I know. Oh my God, we're on a tangent with that, but like I grew up watching Islanders games there, and it was amazing. And then I had the opportunity to fight, and I main evented the first ever and still the only UFC card at Nassau Coliseum. And the energy in that building, like I'm getting chills even thinking about it. It was so amazing. It was ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Loved it. I loved it. It was a dream come true. I felt like I won the fight. It was great. Finished the guy. But I felt like I won the world championship, and it wasn't a world championship.
I know. I could tell, like, so obviously the Islanders went to Barclays for a little bit, right? When they were renovating the Coliseum a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? My first few years, we played them in Brooklyn, but then then when they went back to the Coliseum, I had never experienced it. And obviously, like, you walk on the tunnels to see all the photos of all the musicians and everyone that's played there and all the events that they've had. I mean, there's obviously some crazy history, but yeah, I think the first game we played the Islanders, I think we lost like 6 or 7-1 there. It was like, we got absolutely smoked. It was like they needed to win the game to get in the playoffs or clinch their playoff position, and we got absolutely pounded. But it's a lot of fun playing there. I haven't had too much success, but it's still a pretty enjoyable place to play.
Yeah, I think you'll be just fine. Yeah, but now they have a new stadium, in Belmont or
Yeah,
Belmont. Yeah,
I think
see how that goes.
UBS Arena.
I think
UBS.
so. Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a beautiful place. I haven't. Yeah, obviously I haven't been. We went there a few weeks ago, played them, but obviously I'm not there, so I think it's.
And the poor Islanders, because some of those dudes who train at my gym and became friendly with them, and these guys lived on Long Island, pretty much all of them, and they would have to take the train to go to Barclays Center in Brooklyn, like with random people, like because to take a car, even if they had money, whatever, like to take a private car, it was insane traffic. So it's either they go there super early in the morning and spend the whole day there, and just, do whatever practice they do and like meetings and then never go back home, or they take the train.
No, I have a couple friendly with a couple guys that were doing it, and I remember just talking to them the first year, and I had no idea, right? Because I had never experienced like what it was like to go to the Coliseum, but they were just saying how difficult it was. So you have to get like a day room in Brooklyn and spend the day there, and then go to the game, and then you'd go back out to Long Island, so you have to go in the morning. Like, it was just, I think it was just a lot for them. So I'm sure that they like being back on the island.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. All right, I jumped in there and ruined your next story. So you were feeling the pain with you were doing physical therapy, and then COVID happened, and
yeah, no. So then I just took kind of like an awkward hit there in Long Island, and I felt something right away. It was. I mean, I was in a ton of pain after the game. I couldn't even get my jersey off my over my shoulders. Like, I was really hurting. And then like, I don't think it was from the disc. I think it was more like I just was really strained. Like, I think that my neck muscle was just really strained. It was just, so I ended up going to get an MRI, and then I got an MRI on Long Island, went back to Buffalo, got some more, went out to Denver, saw Dr. Prusmack. And that was the first time, like, I didn't really have surgery in my mind at that point. Like, I was like, I'd rather try and, do something to like rehab this, non-surgically. And then when I went out there, he was like, "Hey, you can do the non-surgical, route, no doubt. But let me just lay it all out for you. Like, if you were to do surgery, here are your two options. You have your fusion and you have your disc replacement." And he just kind of sat there with me and my dad and explained like why he thinks the disc replacement was a better decision. And at the end of it, I just said to him, "Hey, listen, like, I appreciate it. But I want to try and basically rehab this without doing surgery." And I think it was probably a month after that where I had been doing rehab every day, and it just wasn't getting any better. It was just like, I had talked to more people, and I think I had a better grasp on the situation. And it was sort of like, "Hey, listen, like, you've been having neck issues for however long you've been having, 2 years. Like, you need to like take care of the issue, or it's going to continue to nag you." And, the other thing is, you have a disc here that's pressed up against your spinal cord. Like, it's not just going to retract, and, it might get a little smaller, but you're not going to like fully heal it. So that was sort of when I decided that I wanted to do a surgery, and that I wanted to move forward with the disc replacement.
And so at that point, you decide you want to get surgery. Now, what's the next step for you? Obviously, being in the NHL and being a part of the Buffalo Sabre organization.
So I was down in Florida working with a guy down there. This is probably April. I was doing rehab every day. I was seeing him. He was treating me. We would go through the whole thing every day, and so yeah, like, he had pretty good experience with some pretty high profile athletes who had back problems, right? So he's kind of worked in the field, and so he was sort of like, as we were going through it, I was starting to get the feeling, between the two of us that this wasn't going to get better and I wanted to have surgery. So then I reached out to the team, told them I wanted to do surgery. And I mean, at first when I went back to Buffalo, this was at the beginning of April, like it felt like I had their blessing, right? It was like, yeah, like you'll go get your surgery, blah, blah, blah. Like I told them I wanted to get a disc replacement, and everything seemed fine. And it was like, okay, and I scheduled surgery. So I had surgery scheduled. It was like probably the end of April or, I think it was either the end of April or the first week of May. So I'm back in Buffalo. So I'm preparing to go out to Denver to do the surgery. And, like the day before I'm flying from Buffalo to Denver, my plan is to leave Buffalo. I asked the team I needed to do have a physical for surgery, right? Like just like with your
the pre-op type stuff,
like a pre-op physical, and you needed to go through I think it's would it be like a EMG or EKG, like
EKG?
Yeah. So I needed to do an EKG, and so whatever. So I go to the team and I say I want to do this stuff, and then like the mood of like them being very okay with me getting surgery just changed. I didn't really understand why. It was like, it was fine yesterday, but now it's not, you know what I mean? They were like, oh, we're not comfortable with you having the surgery. And I didn't understand why. Right. So, and their explanation was that it hadn't been done on an NHL player yet. And to me, I didn't find that as a valid medical reason to not get a surgery. Right. Like if in medicine, nobody ever made like any sort of transition to like a better way of doing something, then we would be doing the same thing we've always done. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
And there was just sort of a bit of a disconnect at that point between me and the team. And I was getting one thing in private conversations from some people, let's just say. And then when it became in a bigger setting and there were more people involved in the conversations, what I was hearing in private conversations was completely different than what was being said. And, I was very frustrated with the way that things were handled, and then they kind of just started to go downhill from there. And, they were just like, listen, we're not going to let you get this surgery. And I just said, okay, then what are my options? And this is the beginning of May. They said, okay, so, the Players Association gets a little bit involved. And I was just like, okay, well, if your idea of me continuing, because they wanted me to continue to do this conservative rehab route that I had been doing. So I said, okay, I'll do it. But all the doctors we had went and saw said, you can only do it for realistically, if you do it for 3 months and you don't make any improvement, you're not going to just after 3 months, it's like, okay, it's not going to get any better.
Yep.
I said to Buffalo, okay, I'll do it for 3 months. And then at the end of 3 months, if it hasn't gotten any better and I still have the same symptoms, then we should probably consider this surgery. So they said, okay, fine. So I just went back to Florida, worked with the guy again. And at the end of 3 months, I went back to Buffalo, and then they were still like, no, you can't get surgery. And I said,
are you joking me? So you're in pain this whole time. Do you have weakness at all? Or is it just pain and
weakness? But honestly, for me, like the most uncomfortable thing was I would have like the numbness and tingling down my arm into my hand. And like I'd be sitting at dinner and I'd be like trying to shake my arm out, like it's obviously that's not going to do anything. But if I got in a certain position for long enough, my arm would kind of like start going numb. My hand would go numb, but I would get the shooting pain right down the inside of your bicep, down your forearm, into your hand. So I was more or less dealing with that more than anything. So yeah, I dealt with that for a while. And
bro, that is insane. That's terrible. For like, we're not an organization that like works the way the NHL works. There's definitely way more structure, way more, politics involved. We're actually considered independent contractors, so we're not even like legit, employees of the UFC. So it's way different. So we can kind of do what we want for the most part.
So nobody would there's nobody that says like, oh, like, Chris, you can't do this or you can't do that.
So there's a UFC doctor that gets involved and he will give his opinion. but he's not really going to stop you from doing anything. If you need a surgery, you need a surgery. As far as which one you like, which doctor you're going to go to and all that, like it's kind of on you. There was a point maybe a few years ago they had a partnership, with a hospital, a big time hospital, and they would kind of push guys to using their doctors at that hospital, and then you'd be stuck with only their way of doing things. That kind of slowly, I think that partnership kind of went away. So now you don't really have that anymore. Yeah. I would say that's probably the closest to what you kind of were dealing with.
That's big in pro sports, not just in Buffalo or that's in a lot of organizations, not just in hockey, or where there's some sort of partnership with a major medical kind of like big dog in that city, right? And that partnership, it can get pretty political in my opinion.
100%. It's like the same thing with like physical therapists and, like these huge physical therapy companies, like, they pay the Islanders, and now the Islanders send their guys to this, physical therapy company. And if you don't use them, it's going to get a little weird, and, it's just crazy political. It's not really like maybe the best thing for the athletes. There's so much crap like that in the medical field.
There is.
Because to get an athlete is like, once you get an athlete, you're good. You're the best doctor in the world. Everybody wants to go to you.
Yeah.
So
you know how it is, right? I mean, then a lot of it's about ego and, being able to say, I was the guy that fixed Chris Weidman. I was the guy that did this. And you see that when you go through an experience where you're like, you have to make a decision for what's best for you. And, you really have to just become selfish. That's at the end of the day, that's what I ended up just telling myself. I was like, I got to be selfish because no one else is going to look after me better than I'm going to look after myself.
Yeah. It's selfish, but it's also going to be the best thing for the team at the end of the day. Like you're making the best decision for yourself, which is going to be the best decision for the team.
Of course. And the thing that I didn't really understand, and I still don't, is as if I was going to make a decision that I thought was going to compromise my ability to play hockey. Like that's at the end of the day, like my goal is to be the best hockey player that I can be and perform every night. So I'm not going to make a decision or do something that I think is going to like deteriorate my career, and that's where I was like kind of frustrated. It was like, I'm not going to do something that I think is going to be like detrimental to my career. I'm doing something that I think is in my best interest, So it was very refreshing, when I went to Vegas and they were like, listen, you can do whatever surgery you want. You can do whatever surgery you feel. You've done your research. You've had 8 months to do your research on what you think's best. You can do your preferred surgery. At that point, I think everyone kind of knew that I wanted to do a disc replacement. They were like, you can choose the doctor you want to go to. And they were just like all supportive and, hey, listen, we're behind you. And it was very refreshing. And I'm very fortunate.
Oh yeah. And Vegas is freaking awesome. You get to go and live in Vegas. I was just at the Knights game. What a freaking environment. I mean, if I'm gonna have to draw a comparison to Nassau Coliseum, Vegas is right there. It's a freaking show. I'm guessing have you played there?
Yeah, I played there. Obviously, we didn't play there last year with the COVID year because everyone was kind of confined to their own area, right? So we were only in the Northeast. But my other years in NHL, yeah, we played there. I played there a couple times. I think 3 times now.
Gotcha. I mean,
3 games, and right after I got traded, I went out there and saw a game. So yeah, I mean, very, very lucky to be able to play there every night and have that environment and that sort of fan base. It's pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, and they're first in the division, right? So they're playing good, and you're not even playing for them yet. So
team's been playing really well. I mean, there's so many great players on the team. So they've had injuries, and I feel like every team deals with injuries. Every team's dealt with COVID this year and everything else. But the guys have been playing really, really well. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. So let's rewind back to Buffalo. after the 3 months of being in Florida, you come back. Who do you talk to? Like, is it you talk to your manager? Okay, my manager talks to like the coach or the management. Like, how does the communication work in like an organization like that?
Yeah, so you guys have managers, right? So we have
Yeah,
agents, right? So
yeah.
I have agents, and my agent's job is to represent me, right? So my agents are at the time, my agents were they were doing everything that they could, right? They were trying to find a way to you know allow me to get the surgery and whatever. So unfortunately, the collective bargaining agreement basically gives a lot of power to the team. So in our CBA, it says that the team has the final say basically on course of treatment. So if they are sitting here saying that we don't want you to get the fusion, or I'm sorry, we don't want you to get disc replacement, and I go get the disc replacement, then at that point, I'm in breach of the CBA that I signed. So then there's a lot of things that can happen with money owed, contract guarantee, man. There's a lot of things that, I'm not going to get into it, but there's a lot of things that can happen. So basically I was binded to the CBA, right? So I couldn't break the CBA and go against their wish of me not getting the ADR. So we were in a tough spot. At that point, yeah, we're in contact with the team doctors and the management, and we're trying to find some sort of solution to this problem. And it ended up just being, listen, like, if you guys aren't going to allow me to get surgery and I'm not going to be able to get cleared to play, then you got to trade me somewhere, because there's teams out there that will let me get this surgery. And like what are we doing here, right? So at that point, it's probably it's the beginning of the summer. At that point, they agreed, yes, listen, we'll trade you somewhere to a team that will let you get the disc replacement surgery. So they tell me that, whatever. So I'm sitting there. I'm back in Boston at this point, and I'm thinking that they're going to trade me, and I'm going to go somewhere, get the surgery, do the rehab, come back, whatever. So then it kind of just drags out all summer where I haven't gotten traded. But at this point, we're kind of going back and forth, league, CBA, Players Association. It's just it got really sticky, and
you still were not allowed to get the surgery until they release you and trade you.
Yeah. So at this point, I go through the entire summer sitting there, saying, like, at this point, by the way, I had went and saw other doctors, right? So Chad Pressmack wasn't my only opinion. At this point, I had already talked to you. I had talked to other athletes.
Dr. Weidman.
I was going to say, and you connected me with your doctor, Dr. Rue. So I had talked to Rue. I had talked to, probably like 5 or 6 different spine or neurosurgeons around the country. And it was interesting. The consensus from everyone was to do a disc replacement other than Buffalo. So there were some things going on where it didn't really seem like they actually believed what they were saying. They were just saying it to say it. Like they didn't really. They were just. It got very political, right? The medical side of things kind of went away, and it was sort of like, listen, we're just going to kind of hold you ransom here. And so we go through the whole summer, and then the fall happens, and at that point I went and got more opinions. We started to put more pressure on them medically and legally, and then they trade me in the beginning of November, and that's a month into the season. And so ideally, yeah, they would have traded me in the summer, and then I would have been able to do the rehab, and I would have been playing by now. But I think everything kind of happens for a reason, and I'm here now, and I feel great. My rehab's been going very well, and I'm looking forward to playing again. And I'm in Vegas. I have a great situation there, so everything worked out well.
Positivity infinity, but still they screwed you of time and like youth and and
they did, yeah.
Pain.
It was a situation.
It definitely ridiculous. Were the doctors, like the doctors at Buffalo, when you go back to them and say, hey, I spoke to this doctor and that doctor, like Dr. Rue, like were they and they said that, artificial disc replacement actually would be I'm a good candidate for that. And, they believe in it. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Were they just like, no, it has to be the fusion? Or were they like, yeah, just no one's ever done it before?
They were, yeah, I mean, that's the tough thing, right? Is like, for me, I was going to these specialists, these people who had done these surgeries, and they were behind me, and the Buffalo Sabres and the Bills, and they have a very well-respected spine consultant. And, there was a point during the process where it seemed to me like he was on my side, and then he kind of flipped, and he distanced himself from the situation a bit, because I felt like it started to get more political than medical. And at that point, it was sort of like, yeah, hey, listen, you can have as many opinions as you want. We're not comfortable with you getting it. You know what I mean? You can have every doctor. Honestly, it got to the point where every single doctor I went to was like, strong opinion. Yes, you should do disc replacement, and you should get the surgery soon. At the beginning of the season, when I went for my physical in September in Buffalo, their recommendation for me was to do 6 more months of conservative treatment. I had already done 6.
Oh my gosh.
Do 6 more months starting in September.
So they're trying to bench you. Is that so they don't have to pay you money or something? Is there anything with that? Like,
even if I'm hurt, they're paying me. So to me, that was just sort of, when they said that, it was sort of like they were just trying to screw me.
Yeah.
They were like, listen, like, at the end of the day, we don't really care if you play, but it just didn't make sense that I had already done 6 months. Every doctor in the world that I had spoke to was behind me. And, they were still saying, okay, do 6 more months after already having done 6 months. That, to me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, I mean, that's where, like, I started to get a bit frustrated. And I mean, I had already been very frustrated with the situation, but, it was sort of like, you're going to cost me another season, this is supposed to be, your prime years of hockey. I'm 25 years old. These are supposed to be the best years of your career. And so, that didn't make any sense to me when they said, yeah, we want you to do 6 more months of that was their initial, not initial. I mean, that was like that. This is 6 months into the process at this point, the beginning of September. That was sort of their idea. It was like, hey, listen, we want you to do 6 more months. And I was just like, listen, that doesn't make any sense. No doctor that I've spoken to thinks that that's the proper course of action. It just got really weird, man. It was like,
yeah.
I went to Buffalo and I did my physical, and they were like, yeah, we're going to take the C. I was the captain of the team. They're like, we're going to take the C away from you, whatever. And I was just like, okay, well, like, if you actually look at the chronological events here of I was the captain of your team last year. If you take a step back and look at the chronological events of, okay, what's your reasoning for taking the C away? I get hurt playing for you. I do what you ask me. You deny me the surgery I want to do. So then we have a feud because I can't play for you unless I get surgery, but I'm not going to do the surgery that you want me to do because I don't believe it. So then you just take the C away because I wanted to do a surgery that I thought was best for me. That's your reasoning. None of it made sense to me. And you know what? It's all, at this point, it's water under the bridge. I had some amazing times there. And I feel bad because I feel like now the fans and the people there have this, like, I feel like some of them are like, hey, listen, like, we loved our time together and we support you. And some of them are like bitter towards me. And I'm just like, listen, like, you can be bitter towards me all you want, but like, at the end of the day, that's what happened. And if that makes you bitter at me, then so be it. But put yourself in my shoes. What would you have done? I mean,
that's just stupid. Yeah, they gotta be mad at Buffalo. They gotta be mad at the management. And I know you don't want to say it, but like screw them. Are you kidding me? Like, first of all, you came back. You're trying to do everything the right way, trying to do the best thing for you, and they tell you another 6 months and then take the captain away from you because you're trying to do something that is best for you.
Yeah, I was so far gone at that point. Like, I think that it was, it was a pretty eye-opening experience the last year of just what the the pro sport, like just the pro sports. I mean, that's what it is. You at the end of the day, you're an entity to them, right? And as soon as you can't perform for them anymore, it's just like they don't really they're not really there for you. And that's sort of the feeling that I got. And it was just like it was an eye-opening experience, right? You hear a lot. At least I've heard a lot of pro athletes talk about that. That's sort of, as soon as you're not valuable to them anymore, they kind of just like they're like, yeah, whatever. So it is what it is. Like I said, I couldn't be happier. I think everything kind of happens for a reason, and you go through shit and it leads you to somewhere else. And like I said, I'm very fortunate. The organization that I'm a part of now has been nothing but supportive since the very first minute that I got the call that I was traded there. And I'm very like I said, I'm very lucky, and I'm super excited. Like it's a great opportunity. It's a great team, and all the shit that I went through, I think it'll make everything sweeter on the other side.
Hell yeah. I was going to say, I feel like this is going to motivate you, and it's not a bad thing, but put a chip on your shoulder. Like you want to come back and be the best version of yourself possible and just dominate and, have an amazing career. Just to be like, look, my neck is good. I'm crushing it. How you doing, Buffalo? Like what? Like not that you want to be like vindictive or anything, but like just to prove it to yourself. You know what I mean? Like that you did the right thing, and that all this time got taken away from you, and now you have the opportunity to go to a place that's going to welcome you and allow you to do something that's right for you. Give you that opportunity to just go all out.
No, I know 100%, and I think, like you said, this situation and this process has made me more motivated than ever, right? You're motivated to prove to everyone else that's like, hey, like, what are you doing a surgery that nobody's ever done before? I want to prove it to all of them, but more than anybody, I want to prove it to myself. Yeah, listen, you did the right thing. All that shit that you went through, yeah, it was all worth it. Now you're back. Now you're back to playing the way you were before, and it was all worth it. So, and it's funny, like, I go through all that stuff to get the surgery, right? And there's this big gist about like, hey, no hockey player's ever gotten it. I get a call 10 days later from another guy in the NHL who's considering it. He gets it 2 weeks later. So it's like 2 weeks after I got it, another guy in our league was, dealing with a similar herniated disc, and he ended up doing the same surgery, getting the disc replacement done. And, he seems like he's had a really good recovery. I spoke to him a few days after he had gotten surgery, and he said everything went smoothly. So I was really happy that, that things went well for him, and I was sort of able to give him my experience and hopefully persuade him in a way that he felt comfortable doing it.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's just crazy because, neck is such a scary thing. I think anybody, obviously you want to avoid having a surgery on your neck, but having artificial disc replacement as an option is amazing. Like you're saying, like I'm saying, like it really is not. It wasn't a bad surgery, right? Like how easy was the recovery? Like, have you had other surgeries before?
No, so this was my first ever surgery. I was like, I didn't know what to expect, right? So here I am, never had anesthesia. Never been under, never had a surgery, never been cut open. So I was like, I didn't know what to think. I'm like, I remember like my dad's just like, hey, listen, my dad had a shoulder replacement, a year before, and he was just like, listen, like they're gonna put you out and you're gonna wake up and everything's gonna be done. Like it's not like you're dreaming and you're half asleep. He's like, you're not gonna remember a thing. And it was exactly what happened. Like they pushed me into the operating room, like you said, and you just go out and then you wake up and it's done. And I got up maybe like a couple hours after the surgery, walked out of the surgery center, went to dinner with my parents that night. Like, I was a little sore for sure in the coming days, but like, once you sort of get all those muscles around your neck to kind of release, I think all the pain kind of just goes away, right? Because they're guarding, you just had a surgery. As soon as you get everything kind of released, it's like, you kind of forget you had surgery. And I forget I had surgery now, other than, the scar.
I know. My scar is actually there. After my first surgery, it went away at, I don't know, maybe like 3-4 months. It disappeared. And then after I had the second one, I think I'm stuck with this one forever. Because they cut through the same spot twice.
I was going to ask, I was gonna ask how long it took you for your scar to kind of go away, because I mean, mine looks it looks good, right? Like the skin's healed over and stuff, but it's still red. I mean, I don't know if it's just the way that
I think you got to keep playing with it. Like, kind of breaking up that scar tissue, right? And when you go to physical therapy, they do that. Yeah. And I kind of would do it myself, not that my scar healed the best, but I think I was better after the first surgery with putting like the scar guard on too, like before I go to bed and all that. And then after the second one, I started thinking like, I'm not going to have a scar because the first one went away anyway. And then it didn't. So
And then you did. Yeah. I should probably. I honestly, I haven't really put any like ointment or anything on there, like some vitamin E cream or something would probably be good. But I could probably use something. But I don't know. People always ask me, they're like, "What happened to you? Like what happened?" I'm like,
I know people think you have like cancer, like throat cancer or something, right?
no. I got in a fight and someone slit my throat, but I lived to tell the tale.
That's hysterical. I've done that. I had some. I forgot where I was, but I had somebody believing that I was in the military, and they were beheading me, and I fought them off. And then this is what I was left behind. I told them I was kidding, like right away, but yeah, you could just have fun with it.
I did the same. Like right after I had it too, right? So it's like pretty fresh.
Yeah.
I just got the bandage. This is like a week and a half after I just got the bandage off. Someone's like, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" I'm like, "I got in a fight. Someone slit my throat, but I was able to cover it up and get to the hospital." "No way." "No, I'm kidding."
It's the best. Oh man. So what's next now? When are you thinking to be able to get back and be 100%?
I think so. I'm going to see the doc this weekend again, and then I'm heading back to Vegas beginning of next week. I'll be there full time. Just honestly start practicing with the team pretty soon. Get cleared for contact, a 12-week post-op. So I think that's beginning of February.
So 12-week post-op, you're good to go. Could get hit, you could check. That's what they're telling you?
Yeah, that was sort of what my doc my doc's protocol was, I guess, right? Everyone has their.
I think I was probably around the same thing for like full out.
12 weeks, and then I think after that you just you take your time. And I don't really the organization, like I said, they've been really good. They're like not rushing me to like be back, but I mean I haven't played hockey in forever, so as soon as I feel like I can get back to playing and I've been cleared for contact and I feel good and confident enough to go, I'm gonna get back and go. So I mean, my rehab has went very smoothly, and like I said, you kind of have to get that timing back, get back on the ice with more guys around you, getting more game positions, and then I think you kind of just go from there.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it, man. What do we got, like goals? Do you have like goals for yourself? I don't know if
I do. I have them written down.
I love it. Let's see it. Yeah. You got it?
Yeah, but they're personal goals, man.
All right. Yeah, I feel like a part of you wanted to show it, but it's all right. You don't have to.
I'm sitting here.
Oh, you're just looking.
Before I had surgery, I wrote down. I wrote down my goals, and then I wrote like what you need to do to accomplish them, right? Like what your habits should be, the way you should live your life. I always think like if your goals are a certain standard, you need to live your life to a certain standard, and so, but the process has been really good, and just, I think the better the more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Yeah. You're doing pretty good though, like following your routines and creating good habits and all that.
Yeah, no,
so far
the habits have been spot on. Yeah, I've been, this is, like I said, I think when you go through something like this, it motivates you more than ever, right? So, it's all about discipline, making sure you do the same things over and over, or do what you're supposed to be doing every day. And so, I've had a really, really neat experience with this rehab. I've been very fortunate with, working with, the guy that I'm working with, Mark Lindsay. He's had a ton of experience doing rehabs, for some pretty high caliber athletes. So, I've been, like I said, very, very lucky to work with him, and he's made it very fun. It's been, the 8 weeks just went by super quick, and but we stay busy. I mean, it's a full day, 6 days a week, so there's not really any time for you to kind of deviate and get away from it. I mean, he's got me he's got me on a really good routine, and it's kept me very focused, but it's also kept me engaged, and I've been able to enjoy it too. It hasn't really gotten to the point where it's like, this is like kind of like dragging on, right? Like there's energy every day, if you make it fun enough. And I mean, I know not everything's going to be fun. You're not going to enjoy everything you do. Some things suck. You have to do them because you have to do them. But, if you're, a hockey player or UFC fighter, like it doesn't really feel like it's a job, right? It's something you love to do and you get paid to do it. Right. So that's sort of the way I look at it. And this is all part of that.
Are you doing, is he doing like actual strength building of the neck muscles, or he's not doing that?
So I do Pilates. So a lot of it's it's not really, I guess I wouldn't really describe what I'm doing. I work with a lady. I mean, maybe you could call it Pilates, but I wouldn't really call, exactly what she does Pilates. It's a lot of movement based stuff. And, but a lot of the positions that I'm in are like, stabilizing your neck in certain positions. And he actually had he has this like, kind of looks like one of those Russian hats, the ones with the ear flipped up. So it looks like that, and there's weights in the front of it. So it's probably like, I think it's probably 8 pounds. So actually at the beginning of it, when I was getting on the ice at the start, right, to get my head in a better position and work my neck muscles, I would wear this as I would skate.
Wow.
So I wouldn't have my helmet on. I'd be out there and I would have this. It looks like a Russian hat, right? But even if I'm doing exercises or if I'm doing Pilates and I'm in a certain position, right? If I'm in like a side plank position or something, a lot of the time I was using this little, I guess, gadget that we had to promote stabilization and work your muscles, but also to promote, where your head is, your proprioception. Because if your head's off, these things are going to pull you that way. So you need to have it, pretty centered, which was really cool. Use the gyro stim a lot. I don't know if you ever use the gyro stim.
Which one's that? No, I don't think so. I don't know.
So it's sort of like a machine that you get strapped into and it spins you.
No, I've never used that. No.
You get strapped into this machine, right? And you have like a little laser in your hand, and there's targets. Like you're in this sort of, it looks like a kind of like a big globe, and you're in there and you're strapped in this machine, you're sitting down, and it spins you a certain way. And as you spin, you can hit targets, or like there's one where they put, something in front of your eyes and you're fixated while it's spinning. So you're focused on that. It's really cool, and honestly, it's pretty close to where you live. You'll have to try it.
Yeah, bro. Text me that info when you get a sec. Wait, so it's to build up your strength in your neck, or
a lot of it's more or less like your proprioception of like knowing where you are, right? So like for me, I was very compromised when I was hurt. I had a 19 degrees this way. So a lot of it just brings you back to center. It spins you a certain way. It activates your inner ear. And, yeah, man, I feel like I've learned so much through the process, as well as like been able to go through it. I've learned a lot from, from the guy I've been working with, Dr. Mark Lindsay. He's been, like I said, he's been tremendous. So been doing that. I did a little rock climbing too, which is pretty funny, like indoor rock climbing. It works obviously your upper body and but your ability to know where you are in space, and your body control. So I did some of that. I've done gymnastics. So it's been,
bro, you're inspiring me right now. We gotta talk more. You gotta send this all to me.
Yeah. It's been 8 weeks of it, but 8 weeks, 6 days a week. Sundays are off, but it's been a lot of fun.
When are you leaving?
I'm going to see the doctor in Denver on Sunday, and then back to Vegas on Monday afternoon.
Damn it! I was about to say I'll jump in some workouts with you. Or rock climb, and
we were in the pool for a while.
Pool, I'll jump in. I'll do pool workouts.
We do the pool at UNC Charlotte. They've been really nice. We go over there, and getting in the water was a lot of fun. I had never really, done pool workouts before, but we get in there and we do that for like a half hour, and then that's sort of like your warm up, and then we go right up into the weight room after and do a few lifts, and your system's kind of like you kind of prepare your system in the pool, but the load's not very high. And then, you're able to go up in the weight room and do some exercises, and you feel really good, right? You kind of feel like you have that spark to do some things. And yeah, so it's been really well. Like
and Mark Lindsay, is he just working with you, or is there a few other guys that he's doing at the same time?
So the reason he's down in Charlotte, he's from Ottawa, but I mean, he's worked with sort of everyone in the sun, but he's down here during the football season. He works with Christian McCaffrey. I know you know him.
Yep. He's actually going to be jumping on the podcast maybe Friday.
Yeah, he said that. He said he was going to go on and join you as well. But yeah, so he's down with Christian during the year, and so Christian's been kind enough to kind of let me work with him as well as he's been working with him, and been able to build like a relationship with him, being around him as much as I have. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's freaking awesome. I'll hit you up more about this guy, because he sounds like a man. I need help.
He's great. Yeah. He's been solid.
I was just thinking before we got into that was like the cool thing about having an injury is that you do have time to like get out of the craziness of life and that training schedule that's insane, and kind of think about the things that you need to change, like, on a personal level, different habits that you want to start building that is going to, make you better, but haven't been doing it because it's just too much. It's hard to create new habits when life is chaotic. But when you have an injury, things settle down and you can be like, all right, these are the things I need to change, and I'm definitely going to do it. Did you feel like that was like a part of?
No, for sure. I think when you're hurt, when you have an injury, you have a lot of time to think, right? You're not, like you say, you're not in that rush of a season where it's just like, all you're worried about really during the season is like that next game. You play so much. It's like, okay, like I played a game, okay, it went well or it didn't went well. You kind of reflect on it, but it's like, okay, well, now it's time to prepare for the next one, because you might play the next night, you might play in 2 nights. I mean, it goes fast, and all of a sudden you're 82 games through a season, right? So I think when you're injured, that gives you a lot more time to reflect. And I think it's been really cool to be down here at the same time and be around Christian, right? Because he's someone who is so focused and so dialed in on his craft. And when I first got down here, just watching the way that he would prepare, right? Like it was like, okay, like Monday it was a certain thing, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it was all like a build up for him to like get prepared for his game, right? So I didn't really know him at the beginning of this, so I would just kind of I was just kind of in the background watching him, and he's very like dedicated to his routine, right? He does the same thing over and over, and there's so many details that go into it, and he really doesn't leave anything, like he doesn't really leave any stone unturned, right, in preparation for a game. And it was sort of like, wow, you could be doing not that you could be doing more, because I always felt like I do a lot, right, and I prepare well, but there's always little things that you can change, whether that's the way you look at nutrition, whether that's the way you look at sleep, that's the way you look at your mental health and reflecting. And so I think when I got hurt, I mean, you look at a lot of things and what you could do better. And one of the things that I feel like I've tried to work on is like, your mental health, right? Like how you view a situation, how you react to things, like there's just been, I guess, there's been so much that I've had to deal with. So it's changed my perception on a lot of things, and, some for the better, some for the worse. But I think you just learn to kind of take things as they are and not let things affect you as much maybe as they used to.
Absolutely. I agree. All right, man. I appreciate you doing this. We are good on time. Is there any shout outs or anything, like, or let people know where they can find you?
I'm on Instagram. I don't really, I'm not as active as I would be. It's been sort of one of the good things about being down here in Charlotte is I almost feel like I've been like kind of isolated in my own world for a little bit, and that's sort of how I wanted it to be during this rehab. It was sort of like, hey, let me like block out all distractions. Let me get away from everything, take this time, really focus on what I need to do. And then I do have Twitter and Instagram. So if you have any questions, or if you're going through back injury or neck injury, I'm sure you can ask me. I might have an opinion on it, but no, man, I appreciate you having me on. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate all your support, I guess, through this process. It was cool to kind of, when I first reached out to you this summer, it was really refreshing hearing, your experience and just everything. And, then obviously you've just, being an athlete of your caliber, it's been cool to kind of get to know you, and obviously you're a great dude. So I appreciate having me on the show, and I look forward to watching you fight again. When do you have a target, or when you feel like you're gonna get back?
Yeah, probably. I'm early summer. I'm gonna say I come back, and I'm taking a day at a time. Just trying to dominate every day, and we'll see how the body reacts. But that's where I kind of see it ending up, and I can't wait. And I appreciate the kind words, brother. And it was a pleasure to be able to help you out, through those times, because I had people helping me out, and it's a confusing spot to be. So I was happy I could give you a little insight from someone who had surgery. When
you're hearing it from an athlete's mouth, right? It's such a different perspective than hearing it from a doctor or therapist or whoever, right? So it's somebody who went through it. And that was, for me, that was like, when I started talking to more people who had actually went through this, it was like,
exactly.
That was what really, talking to you and talking to I talked to a few other UFC guys and some other athletes, and I got messages on Instagram that, I didn't get back to all of them, but like some other athletes, some hockey players in Europe. And it was like, when you hear from someone who's actually been through it, who's had the surgery, it just makes you feel a lot more comfortable.
100%. I agree. All right, brother. You have a good one, man. And let's be in touch. I got some questions for you with all the physical therapy stuff.
Absolutely. Beauty.
My man. Peace. Thanks for watching today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please let us know in the comments below. Won't Back Down is also available as a podcast, so feel free to give us a follow wherever you get your podcasts.